Raiders Speranza is Calling, a post apocalyptic oasis where you plan, prepare, and then embark on dangerous expeditions topside. But where there's a will, there's a way. And after 100 plus hours over the course of multiple years testing this game, our team is here to help. My name is Codiak, this is Legacy Gaming, and this is our ultimate beginner's guide to Embark Studios' new third person extraction shooter, Arc Raiders. Arc Raiders is far and away one of the most exciting extraction shooters to hit the masses in some time. The game has already garnered an impressive following throughout its public testing, but now that it's launched, we expect there are thousands of players just like you looking to experience the game for the first time. After over 100 plus hours of hands-on experience through various testing phases, our goal is to help you make sense of an otherwise chaotic game and help you get started as you head topside, scavenge for loot, and survive against dozens of Arcs and fellow Raiders looking to hunt you down. It all starts by understanding Arc Raiders' gameplay loop. You'll prepare your loadout, head topside, and spend 30 to 40 minutes scavenging a map, and then attempt to extract with the valuable materials and gear that you've collected. Between rounds, you'll want to take those resources to both build and upgrade new workbenches, craft gear, purchase items, and advance your skill tree, all before re-queuing and doing it again. Before an expedition, you'll spend your time preparing in Speranza, the game's hub. It's here you'll purchase or craft new equipment, prepare your Raiders loadout, make any necessary progression decisions, and accept quests that you'll aim to complete topside. Before each expedition, you'll want to carefully consider what decisions you need to make, keeping in mind that long-term progression is the key to ultimately putting yourself in the best position to extract successfully. We'll dive into some more specifics, but for now, let's venture topside. At launch, Arc Raiders will feature 5 maps plus the practice range where you can test out your weapons. These maps all have default variations, but they also have a number of modifiers that transform them in a variety of ways. Night Raid is a great example of how these maps change based on the modifier. When Night Raid is active, the map is shrouded in darkness. Fewer extraction points exist, Raider hatches are disabled, and the Arc presence is intensified. But with that added challenge also comes higher quality loot across the map. That's just one example of a map modifier you'll want to keep an eye out for when choosing your expedition, because they all offer different challenges and rewards. Once you load in, you're exposed, and it's critical you understand how maps are laid out so you can survive, because make no mistake about it, everything is trying to kill you from this point on. Opening up your map will reveal all of the major points of interest. Yellow outlined areas have medium value loot, while red outlined areas have high value loot. You can still find high tier loot randomly around the map, but it's more rare. Map locations, outlined or otherwise, also have a tag, such as mechanical, technological, electrical, and so on. These tags give you an idea of the type of loot you'll find in each location, and while that loot does vary, you're more likely to find the materials that you need if you're scavenging the right location. The maps themselves are incredibly varied, but what you'll find across all maps are a few consistencies. Every map has areas that are wide open. These are often the shortest distance between major points of interest, but are most commonly found on the outside edges of the map. That being said, they are considered incredibly dangerous to traverse because you're exposed almost the entire time, making you the perfect target for an ambush. Occasionally, you will find smaller buildings or structures, and while these provide a little cover and maybe some loot, they're far from lucrative. Where you'll find the most loot is at the various named points of interest, which are often larger and more sprawling locations, often with multiple levels. These are almost always going to be contested by other players, and are usually at the epicenter of the action throughout a round. At various points of interest across the map, you'll also find locked doors that require special keys to access. Keys from one map will often drop for another map, so you'll have to successfully extract with those items and then take the key into the correct map if you want to snag the often valuable loot located inside the locked room. Dotted across every map are a number of Raider hatches. These are special extraction points that you can only access with a Raider hatch key, which can be purchased once per day at Shawnee and Speranza, crafted, or on the rare occasion, scavenged. These hatches provide your team with a way to instantly extract without the attention-drawing sounds of the other extraction methods. The extraction elevator, metro station, and air shaft on their respective maps are the most common ways to safely get back to Speranza, but it's a much more exposed process. Activating the transportation starts an alarm that alerts other players nearby. You'll have to survive long enough for your ride to reach you, and then successfully complete the extraction sequence. Even if you're knocked down but not fully dead, you can still use these extractions to get out alive. It might all sound relatively easy. Pick a map, scavenge some loot, and occasionally kill an enemy player. But we're forgetting one key element: the arcs. Carefully patrolling each map are deadly machines that are actively hunting raiders, and they come in many different flavors. In fact, so many that we had to make a dedicated video breaking down strategies to defeat each one currently in the game. The general rule of thumb is this: unless there's an actual reason to kill an arc, either because it's detected you or you're farming for their parts, they should be avoided, because engaging them has a very real potential of alerting other players to your position or outright overwhelming you. With some of the basics out of the way, let's focus on some specific things you can do to better prepare yourself for an expedition topside, starting with your loadout. You have two options: to either create a custom loadout using any of the gear that you've scavenged or crafted, or a free loadout where you get a small assortment of random gear, including a weapon, but are much more limited in terms of how much loot you can hold and extract with. Free loadouts are great if you're low on materials and you want to head topside with little fear of losing your hard-earned equipment, and while you are limited in how much you can carry, anything you extract with, including the randomized gear you load in with, gets added to your stash. If you successfully extract, you can then take your free loadout augment and bring it to Lance at the clinic in exchange for a more effective baseline augment. A custom loadout is more tailored to your preferred playstyle, taking your own equipment into an expedition, which most likely makes you a more formidable foe, but also you run the risk of losing it all if you're killed. A custom loadout can consist of any combination of the following: an augment, which determines how many individual items and the total weight of those items you can carry, the type of shield you can equip, how many quick use slots you have, how many safe pockets you have, and if you're using a more advanced augment, how many additional equipment or medical slots you have, plus the potential for a unique perk. You can also slot a shield, which provides you additional protections on top of your health bar. One of the things to note is that higher quality shields, while they offer more protection, will slow down your movement speed, so there is a trade-off. Obviously, you can equip your weapons, and there are no limitations here. You have 2 slots, which means you can bring any combination of 2 weapons into a raid. You can also slot a variety of quick use items or specific types of consumable items depending on your equipped augment. These range from grenades and throwables to healing items and consumable buffs. There's also your backpack, which you'll load in with primarily ammunition, but can theoretically populate with anything from your stash. Finally, there's your safe pocket, which might be the most important slot in your loadout. Whatever you put in here will always make it safely back to Speranza, even if you die. Consider placing high-value blueprints, treasures, or materials in these slots because they are invaluable. The only restriction is that you can't put weapons into your safe pockets. Before every run, you should be asking yourself the question: what are my goals for this next expedition? If the answer is simply killing other raiders and stealing their loot, great, bring a loadout that will help you do that successfully. If you're more interested in scavenging and looting, then that might change the equipment you bring into the run. Understanding what you hope to accomplish and what map you're loading into should always inform the equipment that you bring topside. One of the biggest changes since our time testing the game was that Celeste, one of the vendors in Speranza, now trades in assorted seeds. These are common items you'll find topside and can be traded for basic crafting materials, as well as a limited supply of uncommon to rare materials that replenish on a timer. This is a great supplement to your scavenging, and as you look to further your progression, she becomes a valuable resource that doesn't require you to tap into your precious supply of coins. Everything you do topside helps you back in Speranza, and regardless if it's materials you collect or the bodies you stack up, your goal long-term is progression. One of the most important systems to aid in your overall performance is your skill tree. 3 branching paths stretch across conditioning, mobility, and survival, and as you gain experience and level up, you'll need to make the choice of where to invest your points. Nodes don't increase your damage output, but they do drastically change how effective you are at getting around and interacting with the world, and since there's no way to respec your points at will, at least until you undergo an optional character reset at the start of each season, we wanted to give you some guidance on where to spend your points. The conditioning skill tree taps into 3 distinct ideas: noise suppression, melee efficiency, and recovery. There's some good skills to be had here, especially the first one, Used to the Weight, which allows you to wear heavier shields with less of a speed reduction. Something like Survivor Stamina is another sound choice, allowing you to regenerate your stamina faster when critically hurt. The mobility tree is all about how quickly you can get around the world with nodes that increase speed, reduce stamina consumption, and augment your movement skills. This is actually the tree we recommend you spend the bulk of your early points in because that gives you a more distinct advantage. Marathon Runner, which reduces your stamina cost when moving around, Youthful Lungs, which increases your maximum stamina, and Calming Stroll, which allows you to regain stamina when walking, are all incredible early investments. Later on, things like Effortless Roll, which reduces the stamina cost to dodge roll, and Vault on Vaults on Vaults, which removes the stamina cost to vault, are far and away some of the better skills to invest in. Survival might be the most varied skill tree, and here again we see some really strong choices, none of which I'd say are outright essential, but you could absolutely make the case for investing in them. Right out of the gate, Agile Croucher is superb, increasing your movement speed when crouched. In-round crafting allows you to field craft items while topside, which, while not essential, can come in handy when things go sideways during an expedition. Some of the end-of-tree skills are also pretty interesting if you want to focus on loot efficiency. Broad Shoulders allows you to carry more items, while Looter's Luck makes it so you possibly reveal twice as many items at once, cutting down on the time you spend exposed staring at a body or a container. How you build your skill tree is entirely up to you, but if you were curious how we planned on spending our skill points, this is what we expect our trees to look like at the max level, which at launch will be 50. Be deliberate in your skill choices. Don't spend them as soon as you get them, unless you've taken the time to properly plan out how you want to spec your character. Now, another huge part of the game's progression are the workstations. There are 7 dedicated to crafting, but at the start of the game, you'll have just 1. The basic bench allows you to craft the basic looting augment, a basic shield, some basic level weapons and ammunition, and basic consumables like shield rechargers and bandages. The weapons bench allows you to craft weapons, but also attachments that can add to your weapons and make them more potent. The equipment bench is where you can craft different tiers of augments and shields, which help enhance and shape your gameplay based on your playstyle. The med station gives you access to vital consumables like bandages, shield rechargers, adrenaline shots, and more. You'll need a healthy supply of these, as the more experienced players get, the more consumables they'll bring into raids. The explosive bench gives you access to grenades and mines, and this might not seem initially important, but these items can be critical at flushing players out of cover or taking down the more menacing arc machines. The utility bench gives you access to items like door blockers, deployable barricades, photoelectric cloaks, as well as zip lines, which are essential for efficient traversal and escape during hectic fights. Finally, there's the refiner, something you'll need for later progression, as it allows you to craft rarer components out of the lower tier resources slowly over time. In an attempt to make sure players are never truly stuck without equipment, you'll also have Scrappy by your side, a rooster that will generate a collection of basic materials for you to claim after each run. This includes metal parts, fabric, plastic parts, chemicals, rubber parts, and seeds, all vital materials and the building blocks for the entire crafting system. It can be a bit daunting with so many workstations to build, and in some cases upgrade, so we wanted to take it a step further. The most important thing to upgrade is your rooster. The faster you can get those basic materials, the more often you can craft, and obviously, going into an expedition with an extra bandage or shield recharger does make a world of difference. After that, you'll want to establish your gunsmith. This allows you to craft attachments, but upgrading the station allows you to craft those higher tier weapon blueprints and upgrade your weapon stats, making even the most basic weapon a real threat. Next is the medical lab, which allows you to craft the upgraded healing and shield consumables, which will eventually replace your basic tier versions. More potent healing means more of a chance you survive a fight. Then there's the refiner, which allows you to craft higher tier components between runs. This station is the linchpin that allows you to get enough refined materials in order to craft that next big upgrade you've been chasing. Once you have the other priority workstations up and running, this is what you'll want to focus on upgrading next, as it unlocks additional crafting queue slots, which become essential for converting basic materials into refined materials more efficiently. After that, you really can build and upgrade any of the other workstations, and while there's certainly some value in what they bring to the table, they're not essential, which is why they're at the bottom of our priority list. Now, in order to upgrade Scrappy and the various high-priority workstations we just mentioned, you'll want to keep an eye out for a few essential items when you're topside. Store these in a safe pocket, or just make sure you extract whenever you find them, because some of the items are pretty rare. The dog collar allows you to upgrade Scrappy to level 2. lemons, and apricots are needed to get Scrappy to level 3, and the best way to get these is by doing a raid with the Lush Blooms modifier. You'll need toasters to upgrade your refiner to level 2. You'll also need fireball burners as part of that upgrade to expand the inventory of the refiner. Wasp drivers, rusted tools, and mechanical components are all needed to upgrade your gunsmith to level 2, while tick pods, durable cloth, and a cracked bioscanner are needed to get your medical lab to level 2 to get you into the better healing items. There's a lot of prep work that has to happen before an expedition, and that step is important because once you get topside, all you have is your gear, your skills, and maybe a reliable teammate or two. That's why all the prep in the world can't replace good sound tactics, which is why I wanted to dive into some essential basic tips once you're topside. If you're new to the game, you're no doubt going to be excited about the ARC enemies that patrol each map. It can be very tempting to want to shoot them, but it's honestly to your detriment. Alerting ARCs can cause a chain of events you might not like, including alerting enemy players to your presence. This is the worst possible outcome in most scenarios because while you're distracted with an ARC enemy, an enemy squad can easily get the jump on you. Not only that, but ARCs aren't your typical AI numbskulls. They are smart as heck. For most beginners, it's easy to get overwhelmed, especially once they call in reinforcements. If you do have to fight, target an ARC's weak spots, because if you don't, you'll chew through your ammunition with little to show for it. Bottom line, if you don't need to shoot an ARC, don't, because it's best to sneak by them and focus on the task at hand, looting, killing other raiders, and extracting. Avoiding ARCs means staying quiet, and this has broader implications than you might think. ARC Raiders has some of the best directional audio we've experienced in a game. Every crate you open or door you breach can be heard from a considerable distance away, and every sound, big or small, is information that enemy raiders and to an extent, ARCs can use against you. Sprinting should only be used when necessary, either to span large distances out in the open or whenever you need to quickly move or reposition. You should avoid sprinting inside buildings at all costs, as the excess reverberations can be heard much more clearly. If you suspect any enemies nearby, your first instinct should be to crouch. This masks any movement sound and allows you to get more information, either by physically scouting a location or listening to your surroundings. Would you believe it that even things like pinging locations, reloading your weapons, or using emotes of all things can be heard by other players? So be intentional with your movement and don't make any unnecessary sounds. At some point, you're inevitably going to get into a firefight. That's to be expected. And there's a few things that we can share which will hopefully help you survive those encounters. First is to understand the difference between cover and concealment. For example, a bush will hide you, but it won't protect you. That's concealment. On the other hand, standing behind a large metal wall or crate will provide you cover, protecting you from enemy fire, but make sure it covers your entire body, including your head. Knowing the difference and using those effectively is key to your success in a fight. On top of that, ARC Raiders is a game of angles. Holding corners and peeking is one of the most common ways to scout and ultimately engage enemies because of the third-person nature of the game. As needed, make sure you're swapping shoulders so that you're never exposing too much of your body. It can be a little jarring at first, but learning to shoot off your right or left shoulder is going to help you in the long run. Finally, and this really does go without saying, but more than most games, having health, shield, and stamina matter a whole lot more in ARC Raiders. If you get cracked, there's very little you can do in that moment to support your team. It's better you duck behind cover, recover what you can, and then re-engage in the fight. Even if you have a full shield, popping up with just a pip of health isn't helping anyone if you get knocked, since some damage passes through your shield to your health. So take care of yourself first before trying to take out an enemy. Last but not least, let's talk about looting. As we've discussed, you want to go into each expedition with a goal, specifically items you want to bring back to Speranza. Make sure you consider what areas of the map have these specific items you're looking for and target those specific locations for the best chance at your desired loot. On top of that, and critically important, be sure to loot as many containers as possible. You don't necessarily need to take the items, but every container or raider corpse you simply open, you get experience for. This is the quickest and best way to level up and acquire more skill points, so just remember, a full backpack doesn't mean you should stop opening containers. I should also mention that you can salvage items during an expedition, breaking them down into basic materials, but Your yield is greater if you recycle those same materials back in Speranza. It's the same function, you just get more out of it. If you're looking for a more advanced guide, check out our Wish I Knew Sooner video, chock full of advanced tricks to take your knowledge to that next level. What you know is more valuable than what you loot, so give our complete playlist a look to gain that edge on your competition. We hope this guide helped you beginners out there get comfortable with arc raiders, and as always, if you want more content like this in your feeds, do me a solid, hit that thumbs up, and consider subscribing. My name is Codiak, and from everyone here at Legacy Gaming, thanks for watching, and play on.